Hey, there we
Hi,
go.
Bob.
Young Marketers, episode 17.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm doing good. Doing
Good.
good. What is today's topic?
We got a fresh topic today, pal.
All right.
You ready for this one?
Ready.
It's going to light you up. You're going to talk.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to get Jibber Jabber Bob going here in a moment.
Oh boy.
You ready?
Hold on. Yep.
All right. Topic today. Why you chose entrepreneurship and what you wish you knew sooner. Okay, so let's talk. Why did you get into entrepreneurship anyway, Stanky?
Okay. So
And how far back are you going to take us?
I'm going to take you back to the 1950s. I'll explain in a minute. Okay, hold on. Okay, so first of all, just to clarify, I don't know if I consider myself an entrepreneur.
Uh-oh. Whoa. If you go back to video, I forget what number, and you remember what you had said, I am an entrepreneur.
I said I was a coach. I said I was
owner.
a coach, not an entrepreneur.
I am a coach.
Okay, here's why I say that. Okay, so I say that a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Okay, I say it because when I think of an entrepreneur, I think of someone who's really focused on one thing. They're building something right now. And you could say entrepreneurs, start and build a business and sell it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an entrepreneur has an idea and they start building it, and it's their sole focus. That's not entirely true because I have a full-time job. So I'm like a part-time entrepreneur. That's a better way. I'm a part-time entrepreneur. I'm a full-time employee during the day. I'm a part-time entrepreneur at night. I guess maybe that's how I look at it.
Okay, I'll give you that. I like aspiring entrepreneur better.
There you go. I actually like that even better. Yep. And I think I sent you a podcast. There's a podcast called The Aspiring Entrepreneur. I think I sent it to you a couple weeks ago that I found. I think it's a podcast. I think that's the name of it. So yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think I would consider myself a full entrepreneur when it's all I'm doing.
When you're a full-time entrepreneur?
Yeah, when I'm a full-time entrepreneur.
Then you'll count yourself as a full-time entrepreneur.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Right now, I'm aspiring. I'm a business builder.
Yeah, you're an aspiring entrepreneur, part-time gig.
I'm Bob the business builder.
All right, go on.
All right, so, okay. I truly believe that this is in my blood. So.
And you're only doing it part-time.
And I'm only doing it part-time. Yeah, this is where I went. This is where I went wrong. This is why I wish I would have done things sooner. Let's back up. So the reason why I started off by saying I'm going to take.
So back to the 1950s. Here we go.
Okay, so real quick, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. And actually, I don't know a whole lot of the background, but I can tell you that my one grandfather, he owned a hardware business. Okay, and I think he was also a plumber, and he owned the hardware shop. I remember because I remember my mom talking about how the kids grew up, had to work at the hardware store. So he ran a hardware store. Okay. And he also did plumbing, I believe, if I recall correctly. He passed away before I was born, so I never got to meet him. But my understanding was he started off as a farmer, and then they moved, and he was a hardware store owner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My other grandfather, who I did know until he passed away in the late 90s, worked at a paper mill when he was working, and he saw an opportunity. The paper mill had all of this like waste product that was developed when they would take logs, big timber logs, and they would shred the logs up, and they would basically create paper right out of wood. And there was all this like pulp or, like material that basically the paper mill didn't need, and they dumped it into the river. Now, this is well before, environmental stuff was more, what it is today.
Yep.
This paper mill was on a river, and they would take all this waste product and just dump it in the river or whatever. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, saw an opportunity. And so what he started doing was he started taking this waste stuff home. And he came up with a different kind of drywall. And he made it like literally in their garage. He developed this drywall product.
They patent it?
I don't know if he patented, but I do know he sold some of it.
Hmm.
And my understanding, and this story has been passed down a couple of times, my dad had some recollection of it. But what happened was he sold it to this guy, and there was a fire. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't think, caused by the drywall, but this drywall didn't meet all the standards that I think drywall needed to meet at that time. I didn't have the right materials in or something, and it just maybe didn't help. I'm not saying drywall stops fires. I'm just saying there was something about it that it ended up my grandpa shutting down the business.
Got it.
Like there was some accident, something happened, a customer got really pissed,
Yep.
and my grandpa, I think, faced some sort of financial trouble because of it, and he shut it down.
Yep.
My dad he got a law degree from Hamlin. He graduated. He worked for a law firm for a couple of years, and then he decided he wanted to go out on his own. So he left and he started his own legal practice for several years, many years. Then he went into teaching. That's a whole nother story. But even to this day, my dad still does a lot of consulting, still does a lot of legal consulting, educational consulting, that kind of stuff. So, but it's very part-time. He's retired.
Right.
Where I'm going with all this is that somewhere in my blood is this desire to have your own thing. Probably passed down from my grandfathers, even down to my father. This idea of having a business, and so that's why I say I think it's rooted deep inside me. And when I was growing up, that was my dream. In the mid 90s, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was reading books. At that time, I was completely all about technology. And that was a good time. Like things were like, just really starting to take off in the tech world.
Right.
Windows 95 was arguably the first real successful operating system, fully graphical operating system. I went to Best Buy and bought the first copy of Windows 95 when it came out. I bought Windows 98. I was in technology. I was reading books about Bill Gates and Larry Ellison and all those tech entrepreneurs. And I was a sophomore in high school, junior in high school, and I was like, I want to be that. In high school, I built a program. I can't remember if I've shared this story with you before. I don't know if I have or not, but I wrote a program in Microsoft Excel in 1996. I was a junior in high school, and I sold it to my high school. I went to the assistant principal. I never really shared this with very many people at the time because it was software that tracked detentions.
No, you told me about it.
Okay, so all these detentions were tracked on paper at the time, and I went to the assistant principal and I said, "Hey, look, I developed a computer program that can track detentions like electronically," and he was like, "Awesome, great, yeah." And me, having studied all these great tech entrepreneurs, was like, "Okay, well, I've got to charge you for it." And he said, "Well, how much?" And I said, $75. Don't know why I said $75. So I charged $75. They paid it. They cut me a check, and I was the data entry person and the administrator of the tool. I spent many hours entering detention slips in this program and all this kind of stuff. But I was proud of myself because I'd built this tool.
Yeah.
Then several years after that, I built another tool that managed another aspect of fundraising for churches and schools. It's called Script. And I built this program that ran Script, and I sold it to a church that used the program. And so this was very early on. Then in college, I co-founded a tech, what do you call it? Like a tech support company. It was called Techstar, and it was with a gentleman who was also at the same college as me. We basically did tech support for like
Mhm.
people, like home people who bought computers.
Yep.
So if you bought a computer, you know how to set it up, we'd go to your house, we'd set it up. He was older than me. He was about 3 years older than me. We met each other in a business class when I was a sophomore in college. And he was like, "Hey, you like computers? You know how to set up computers? I'm starting this business. Do you want to start it with me?" I said, "Yes." Did that. He graduated. He got a job. He closed the business down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a real business. It was, people paid us in cash or whatever. It's like it wasn't real or anything, but we did okay. I mean,
Yeah.
$100 here and there, whatever. And then right after that, I started my own computer consulting business after that. And it was called Technologics. And um, it ran for a couple of years. It started off as developing software. I wanted to develop software. Again, this comes from all these books I'd read in college or in high school about Microsoft and Oracle. And so my goal was I was going to build this next great software product. That was kind of the goal. Then I graduated college, got married, started having kids, landed a full-time job, got incredibly busy with that, and it just stopped. It just stopped. And then that was about the year 2000, 2001. And then I didn't do anything for about 8 years. I did nothing. I just worked. I worked and raised kids.
Built your career. Yep.
Yeah, built my career. You know, um, and then in 2009, I started blogging.
Hmm.
I started my website, literally the same website I have today, and just started blogging. And that was not a business. It wasn't meant to be a business until around 2012 ish, 2011. I started to make some AdSense revenue. And it wasn't very much. It wasn't much at all. It was like, a nickel a day. It wasn't, it was crazy. But I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. There's, so I made a couple $100 here and there. Um, but never anything super serious until really I met you. And then we started talking about, hey, let's start a side hustle. Like let's start building something of our own. And then that's really when I started like formalizing all this stuff. So the point of this very long story is it runs deep in my blood. I feel it runs deep in my blood. And I'm not new to this. I was doing it in high school. I was trying to do it in high school.
Right. Yep.
I was 17, so I didn't know diddly shit.
Right.
I didn't know any of that stuff, but I knew the idea because I had read all these books.
Sure.
I had studied Bill Gates was like my idol back then. Like, and he was, Microsoft was very young back then, and it was a growing company. It was really kind of rising. The book he wrote that changed my world was called The Road Ahead, and he wrote it in the late, now mid '90s. Basically, he laid out what he thought the future of technology was. If you go back and read that book now, you realize just how smart that guy was.
Sure.
He was talking about shit that was on nobody's radars at the time, and today everything in that book is pretty much what we have.
Yeah, I've seen videos around the time of when he published that book that he was talking about aspects of it, and
Yeah.
it's scary how
Yeah.
much of a visionary he was at that time.
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about like his computer on every desk. Like that was always his big catchphrase was, we want a computer on every desk. I'm talking about there's parts in that book where he talks about like basically Internet of Things, like your house being controlled by technology.
Right.
And it's like again, back then,
Things that were just started to happen like a couple
yeah.
of years ago.
I
Right.
mean, and back then we still had phones attached to the wall.
Right.
Like, it's like I don't know. It's crazy. But that's the stuff I was reading in the mid
Sure.
90s. I had that book. I bought it. What high schooler bought that book?
Right.
I did. I did. And I read it and I was absolutely just like, oh my God, I want to do this.
Enthralled. Right.
I want to be a part of this. And this is one of yeah, I'll just say the word. This is one of my regrets. is one of my regrets. I was so hungry to be a part of that back in the day, but I didn't make the right step. I wasn't hungry enough at the time to really understand what I could have done to be a bigger part of that movement.
Hmm.
Because I was a 17-year-old boy who was interested in a lot of other things, like playing basketball and chasing girls, and and all that stuff's fine. I'm not saying
Mhm.
I wouldn't have done those things. I'm just saying, like, I went in different directions. I did different things, but I remember to this day and still feel how much I was just like wanted to be them. So small parts of that have carried on over the years, and that's why I'm still interested in building something. Me and you had a great text exchange last night. It was brief, but it was really great. It was like, "Hey, we're not too late." Like there there are plenty of entrepreneurs who
Found success in their 50s,
like Colonel
40s,
Sanders.
and 50s. Yep.
I love the Colonel Sanders example. Like
Right.
Colonel Sanders is like on deathbed when he was like
Yeah.
creating the secret,
He was like 70 years old when he
yeah,
was,
the secret seasoning, and he's like, "Here
right.
you go, right before I croak, here it is." It's like, so it's Colonel Sanders is a perfect example. And I still the Walton family. I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Bill Walton? No, it wasn't Bill Walton. He's a basketball player.
I
I
can't
can't
remember
I can't
either.
remember what the father of the Walton family was that started Walmart,
Yep.
but he was a hardware store owner for
Yep.
like most of his life until
Right.
like he was like 62, and he was like, "Hey, wait a second,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
This
start this thing.
epiphany.
Yeah, I'm gonna start this thing called Walmart. Going to centralize, all my supply chains." And like then he built a behemoth business.
Right.
Like we're not too late, but it's easy to think about if I had been more serious about this 20 years ago.
Hmm.
I'm 46 today, and I think about if I would have maybe spent a little bit more time and was more deliberate about the things I wanted to do, I could have started this 20 years ago, and who knows where I'd be today. Now, that being said,
I wonder if True Identity's new direction would have helped you out at that point in time.
maybe, maybe, absolutely, it absolutely might have, and it might not have. When I was 26, well, so here's
It
the
wasn't
question.
a priority then.
Do you want to know why all those entrepreneurs didn't make it until they were in their 50s or 60s? Because if you ask me, you don't know shit when you're in your 20s. You don't know shit in your 30s.
You're learning. Yep.
Okay, not everybody is Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, who did literally were in their 20s when they built their huge companies, right? They got started there. Most people in your 20s, you don't know anything. I'm
Right.
sorry, you are dumb. You just graduated from college, you got no money, you just got to start making money, you got to start, find a place to live. Maybe you're finding a spouse, maybe you're starting a family. Then in your 30s, you're still getting your shit together. You
Right.
still you now at least now you're starting to make probably a steady income, and maybe you've now bought a house and you're settling down. If you ask me, it's not until your 40s when you really start to understand, like, okay, I get life now. Like I
Yeah.
got,
See, that's the thing is the 30s, you're kind of like, now I can take a breath because I've
yes,
kind of reached this threshold where I'm a little more comfortable and I don't have to
right,
stress so much.
yeah, yep,
So then you kind of ease back on the gas a little bit.
mhm, mhm,
And that's when you should actually be going full tilt forward.
right. I mean,
Because
I think
that's the opportunity from the point you turn literally like 15 to 35. That is your time to learn and grow. It really
yeah,
is.
yep. And you are, and I'm sorry if you're in your mid 20s right now or late 20s, you think you got it all figured out. You don't know shit right now.
Yep,
You don't. I'm
you
just
got
gonna
a
tell you
long
that
way
right
to go still. Yep.
now. You
You
might have
may
it
you
figured
may
out.
be ahead of some, but you got a long
You
way to
might.
go. Yep.
Yep, you gotta because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the 30s and even the early 40s that throws curveballs at you, and you learn from those. But
It's
I
called
but I
life.
really,
Right.
yeah, but I do really feel like now, like right now, I certainly do not have it all figured out. Still behind on a lot of things, but I know how to learn effectively. I know how to work. I know how to. I've built my career. Like I've jumped the hurdles. I've learned the ropes. I've learned the things I can and cannot do. I've accepted the things I'm not good at. Like that's the other thing. When I was 20, I thought I was indestructible. I
Mm,
thought I could do everything. I thought I knew everything. I was making fun of the 40-year-olds at my place where I worked because I was like, they're old. They don't know jack about anything. Like this is stupid. Now I realize, holy crap, they had to figure out I didn't know anything.
right.
And so in the 20s, you think you're indestructible. The problem is you have not experienced
You're
not
not
even
experienced.
not even business stuff. You haven't experienced some life stuff.
Yeah, you just
You
haven't
may
been
not
burned enough.
yeah, you may not have experienced the death of a friend. You may not have experienced, um, the birth of a child. Like those things are just absolutely mind bending, and like they teach you so much crazy stuff. So now, like, I get it. Colonel Sanders, that dude, how many chickens that guy fried before he was like finally figured out the secret recipe or whatever?
Right?
Like, he probably figured it out at like 40 or 50, and he was like, "Oh yeah, now I get it. I know how much paprika I need to add in that seasoning to make this the bomb." Right? You know what I'm saying? But at 20, he didn't know that. So,
Oh my gosh, you
so here's
killed
the thing. Had I kept let's rewind 20 years. Say I had really taken off and built something. Who's to say it would have lasted very long? I
right.
mean, you wonder why 80% of most businesses don't last. My guess is probably because they were started when the person was too young. They didn't know the things they needed to know yet.
There's a laundry list of reasons, but yeah, that's probably one of them.
That yeah, might be one. I mean, you can you can go and get a business degree. Hell, you can go to Harvard and get an MBA, whatever. But until you're responsible for building and growing and hiring and firing and all that, like, you know, you haven't learned anything.
It's one of the
You know,
hardest things to do.
right. So it's like now it kind of makes sense to me why all of those entrepreneurs, a lot of them, did not make it until they were older.
So, what do you wish you would have known sooner then?
Um, I I don't know if I wish I would have known anything sooner. Well, um, oh, who was it? I just saw a video a couple days ago. Um, oh, who was it? I can't remember now. The guy was talking about how hard business is. Like it's hard. It's. Oh, I think it was that Kevin
It's
Leary
Kevin.
guy.
It was.
Yeah, is that the video I sent you?
That was part of our text
Well,
exchange.
that was part of the text exchange yesterday. I'm not a huge fan of his. I like Shark Tank, whatever, but his message really resonated with me, and that was business is really, really hard. See, back in the day, I thought it was easy because I hadn't experienced business myself. I
Right.
had worked for companies, right? I wish I would have known how hard it was, and maybe I would have approached it differently. Maybe I would have worked a little harder. Back when I was doing those ventures, I just thought it was cool to be in, you know, to be in the position to try to build those things. I didn't really appreciate how hard it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never took it to the next step. I'm not a huge fan of Mark Zuckerberg, but I love the story and I love the fact that, he kept pushing and
Right.
pushing and pushing.
Yep.
Most people, per the Kevin O'Leary video, most people stop.
Give up. Yep.
They stop. They give up. I wish I would have known what it would have take, what it would have, required to make something successful. And then instead of just dreaming about it, I could have done it. Even if I would have failed, I think I would have been happier knowing I was approaching it the right way.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes any sense. I just didn't know what I didn't know at the time. But the fire is still there. I mean, I don't think that ever goes away. I mean,
Yeah.
I've even considered, like, hey, you can dream about retirement and say, oh yeah, I'm going to sit on the beach and drink margaritas. What, every day? Like, come on, like, no, that's like a 10-minute thing. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to need something to keep my mind active and busy, and I'm naturally a learner, and I'm someone who likes trying things. So like, I hope that this is something. I hope what I'm building today, or some version of it, is something that'll keep me busy until my last breath.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for fun. Like it's
Sure.
not that I need a paycheck, it's because I enjoy doing it. So I mean, like I look at like people like Stephen King, the writer, the famous writer.
Mm-hmm.
He's writing books. He still churns out several books a year. The guy doesn't need to work another day in his life. But every interview I've heard with it's because he loves doing it.
He loves doing it. Right.
He loves writing. And
That's
it's
his
like the
passion.
guy's like 80 years old. He's still writing fantastic books. And it's because he likes doing it. And I don't think he's 80, but he's got to be in his early 70s, I think. But regardless, he doesn't need to be doing it, but he's doing it, and that's his career. He's still doing it. He probably will continue to do it. So maybe I'll do something like that. Maybe I'm writing something, or maybe I'm producing something. I don't know. Then, like, I think of like my uncle, who after he retired, he made fishing lures
That's awesome.
just for fun. Like, and he sold them. He bought little plastic baggies and he'd stuff 10 lures in there. He'd sell them, $5 at like
Right.
the local whatever corner store or whatever. It's like, maybe it's something like that. I don't know, but I'll need to be doing something like that, or I don't think I'll be fulfilled.
Sure.
Honestly, I'll be fulfilled.
So, I mean, we have a lot of similarities. We've talked about a lot of the things, our history, and how we've gotten to this point, right? So, I don't know how much I've actually told you, though, about how I did tinker with entrepreneurship. When I was single digits, probably 6, 7, lemonade stands every summer, and multiple. And it wasn't just lemonade. I was making cookies. I wanted extra ching. I wasn't just going to sell the juice.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing upsells at 6
Yeah.
or 7 years old.
Yeah.
That moved into, I enjoyed collecting. I enjoyed collecting cards, sports cards. I did coins, stamps. Agates. Minnesota is where I live. Agates are very popular. Gemstone.
Yep.
Still collect those to this day. Just got my 106-year-old grandmother's stamp collection of like 15 full-fledged stamp books that are just crammed. So now I've got all that I get to go through, but frightening and cool at the same time.
Yeah.
That was, tween years. Then I wanted to be cool. So all that kind of went away. I didn't really recognize the passion for it back then. It was more about the intrigue in finding something valuable, right?
Yep.
And just getting the cash. When I was little, getting the cash was cool. Finding something valuable when I was collecting was cool. Having something that was worth money was cool.
Yeah.
And then teenage years, it was all about being cool and trying to do whatever I could to be cool, and lost sight of everything that probably actually meant something. And that happened. That happened all the way through college. So I didn't really do anything. And again, I hadn't recognized the bug to do your own thing until after college. And it was probably after my first few jobs. And I got into marketing because I loved the psychology of brand marketing. That was the big appeal for me. I loved how people thought, what motivated them, what drove them to make decisions. I've always been intrigued by that. I was a coach in the teenage years. I coached Little League, and I loved it. It actually almost steered me towards an education degree. I was almost there, and then I sat in a 4th grade class, and I said, F no. I can't do this the rest of my life.
Yep.
But But I really enjoyed helping young kids, people in general, try to find a way to do things better. That was always something that I really wanted to do. So when I got into the brand marketing aspect of things, it was always trying to, pair the right product with the right people, right? That made sense. It was just logical for me. So the first few jobs that I had, I was in media. It wasn't really brand marketing. Eventually I got into brand marketing and I realized I love this, but this isn't really what I want to do. It's part of what I want to do. Professionally, I can make a paycheck because it's a marketing role. And I'm, again, traditional marketing of matching products and services up with the people that actually need them, right? Easy for me as far as connecting dots that way. That's what I was meant to do. But every conversation that I had outside of work was, how can I do this so it isn't just marketing? How can I create a product or a service that is going to help somebody in their life do something better? And I started a few ventures. Initially, I was like, F it, I'm just going to open a restaurant. Well, the failure rate of a restaurant is, don't you?
Yeah, it's high.
Pretty dang good.
Right.
And I was like, coffee shops were the big thing that was up and coming. And I worked at Caribou Coffee, which is a regional player, for a little less than a year. Short stint, but I loved it. Great experience. Unfortunately, the market crashed while I was there, so I got laid off. Not crashed, sorry, recession. But I fell in love with that. So I was like, man, maybe I could do something like that along those lines, because I loved serving people, making their day with whatever it is that I was offering, right? That isn't necessarily what I wanted. So then I started a coaching business a few positions later in my career. I was coaching marketing because that's where I had experience. I was helping small businesses with that. And that was cool. I was like doing my own thing again, which was nice. But that wasn't where I needed to be. Then I tried a blog/website. It's called People Inspire People. I was getting closer. To where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
That didn't work because all I was doing was just content. And I was not a strong, experienced content marketer at that point. And it was just, the industry was growing in that segment, and I hadn't had enough time in it yet. So I was still new to it, and I wasn't strong enough in how to position everything to make sure that it was doing well in search and so on and so forth. So that was okay. Walked away from that. And then it wasn't until I started working at Homes for Heroes and I ran into this guy called Bob Stanky.
Big mistake.
This SOB said, one of the best ways you can learn is to start your own business. I was like, well, shit, I kind of want to do that anyway. So why am I not doing that? Because, I could grow skills that I'm not necessarily using on the job. And I could get, start making steps toward what it is that I feel I should be doing. Well, then True Identity was born in 2020. And this was more of where I wanted to go. This was closer to where I wanted to be. I put a focus on apparel because I thought it was a good fit. And I really wanted it to be an easy execution thing. So it was fulfillment, automated. I didn't have any inventory. I could do it all digitally. Just produce the content, set up ads on my site, sell products as need be. Well, after 4 years, actually, I went really hard on it for about 6 months. Then I fell back on it because I needed a lead gen tool, built a survey, kind of took a break from that because I went hard on that for like 6 months. And my wife was like, do you live here anymore? I haven't seen you. So then I fell off fell off the wagon for a little while. I didn't go as hard. It was more about building content and products and that kind of thing. Site got pretty good traction.
Yeah.
I was getting 10, 12,000 sessions a week. It was a week, month. Yep. So it was strong. I was feeling really good about it. I wasn't getting a ton of sales because apparel's hard, especially digitally.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a footprint store where people can actually look at it, touch it, feel it, try it on, I think it's a much more appealing sell at that point, even though online people do it all the time. They sell apparel. I just don't think I had the right niche. So now I'm rebranding. I'm creating an entirely different entity. And with the introduction of AI, I feel like I can actually do what it is that I really want to do. And that is, I want to connect somebody's core essence, meaning character traits, core values, and passions, bucket that up into one individual. And I want to connect that with life circumstances that take a lot of consideration, that are directional for your life path. And I want to put those two together. And I want to provide information regarding any decision that might be that path that they're trying to walk, and say, this is a good option for these reasons. This is a good option for these reasons. Now you, as the individual with these traits, these core values, and these passions, need to decide, based on what I've just shown you, what's going to be good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make the decision. I want to show them what might be a good decision. Instead of everything else that your mind is trying to tease you to think is a good decision, because that's what it does. So I feel like, given the power of AI, what I can do with this, I think that's what I want to do. So my trip from, grade school to today, 45 years later, has finally brought me to a point where I think I can actually deliver upon what it is that I've wanted to do for that time period. And I'm really excited about it. And it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of learning.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, that is literally what you do. You have to put in the work. You have to learn. You have to invest time and money. And you got to be willing to fail. I guarantee I'm going to make mistakes. I am going to fail on what it is that I'm going to be putting together. I have already failed numerous times with what I've tried, but it has brought me to this point. And I think if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, if you are not willing to fail, you will not become an entrepreneur. You must fail, because to Bob's point earlier, you have to learn what works, what doesn't work. And the only way you're going to do that is if you try something. So what I didn't know that I wish I would have known back in the day is, one, this actually was incredibly important to me, probably when I was younger and I didn't recognize it. I wish I would have recognized it earlier, and I wish I would have prioritized it earlier, because I don't know if I'd have been screwing around as much. And I don't know if I would have pursued things the way that I did, right? I think I would have prioritized trying to find my own path and become an entrepreneur sooner, which I think would have been at least helpful to try more things. You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing that I wish I would have known sooner.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is, I didn't fully grasp how challenging it is to build a business. You can start a business, but building a business is incredibly effing hard. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. And it takes, in some instances, a lot of money that you may not have to do well. So, you and I, how many times have we talked about, man, I just wish I could do that one tool. If I could get that one tool, I could do so much more. Right?
Yep.
Or if I didn't have to work a full-time job, if I could get, 20, 40 more hours a week, just think of where I could take this business and how fast I could ramp up. Well, if you got to pay bills and you have a family to take care of, you can't do it that quick.
Yep.
And then you have competitors, right? You always got to watch them because they might be watching you. So, yeah.
And external factors out of your control, like Google,
right.
And all of,
Google decimating our sites when they decide to roll AI out and put it at the top of their search engine and nobody gets any clicks anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality of a lot of business right now. A lot of businesses right now are hurting and they're trying to figure out how to pivot in this new world that we are just entering. Like it's going to change dramatically. And it's not just tariffs and it's not just politics and it's not just AI. It is the fabric of how we run our day-to-day lives as American citizens is going to change dramatically in the next 5 years.
Yep.
And that includes, and because that is going to affect consumers, it's going to dramatically affect how businesses are going to run their business. So, yeah, there's a lot happening right now. And, back in the day, oblivious to that stuff. But now, because it's applicable to what I'm attempting to do for my own personal project, I pay attention to that stuff very closely. And as an entrepreneur, if you're not taking it to heart, you're not walking the walk, and you're not actually doing it what it is that you're trying to build, it's not going to matter to you. You have to be entrenched. You have to be the one that is actually so involved that nobody else can talk you out of it.
Yeah. Two really quick points. Number one, related to that. If there is one person on this earth who's trying to build something that is in direct relation with where their passion's at, it's you.
I told my wife last night, look, I'm building this so I can help myself get back on my path and do better with what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, since I've known you, you've talked about this mission, not always tied to a business and a business name, but just this passion you have for this. So what you're building is true to you. That's you and Colonel Sanders probably have that in common.
He was working paprika and I'm working,
Yep, but you both love that more than anything else.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because you know what? There are a lot of, the word entrepreneur is weird because there are people out there who are building something just to fit a need in the market.
Yeah, and we need that too.
Yep, they're going to build it, they're going to scale it, and then they're going to sell it, and they move on to the next project.
Yep,
and that is fine. We need people like that. But there's a difference. Those are entrepreneurs who are just like, I see a need, I want to build something. They might not even be passionate about it.
Right.
They might not even care about it.
Right.
They're looking at it solely from a market need and an economic, return that they can get from it.
Yep.
And that's fine. That's like a whole profession and career in and of itself. Just professional entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
I don't know what the term is for someone like yourself or some other people that I know have built amazing companies or brands. That is just something they like truly felt deep in their soul, like you do. So I don't know. I've always admired that about you, and I think it's great. And I think that's what, while it might seem like it's taking a long time to build, process, it's because you really care about it that deeply. That's the way I look at it.
Well, thank you. And I hope that is actually what will help it become something that I can, hang my hat on versus just dream about.
Yeah. The second thing I'll say, saw something on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago, a lady I follow, and the post kind of stuck with me a little bit. The premise of her post was, hey, sometimes things don't work out. And, maybe you applied for the job that was perfect for you. You meet all the qualifications. It's a dream job you want, and you don't get it. Or, maybe I can't think of any other examples, but she had several in the post. the takeaway from at the end of the post was, hey, look, sometimes those things happen for a bigger reason that we might not see at the time. Maybe had you landed that dream job that you applied for, you might have hated it.
Yep.
So maybe things just kind of work out the way they work out.
Yep.
So when you look back at all those things that you tried, maybe none of them stuck because they weren't supposed to.
That's correct.
They weren't supposed to because
that's the mindset I have to have.
Right. Yeah. Because what you're building today is what you're meant to do.
Right.
And it's hard to say because maybe this isn't it. Maybe there's something, but you'll find out, and it'll just be the universe just telling you. Right?
I was just gonna say, you know what? I felt the exact same way about True Identity. So that was 5 years ago, and look where I am today. So you never know, right?
Yeah, you never
know.
It
may work, it may not, but I'm gonna try. And as I testified in our last video, I am not missing this AI boat. I am hopping on, and I am going sailing for a while.
You know how a couple of years ago we used to say, like, mobile first, like always think mobile first. The consumers using mobile first. Think as marketers, we were told mobile first. Now it's AI first. For I think for what we're trying to build. Like if you're just starting to build a business or an idea, you have to find a way to incorporate AI into it.
Yeah.
So I agree. Yeah, you're not going to miss the boat on this one. You're probably going to take a AI first approach, if you will.
I will say this, and this is for anybody who may have already made it this far in the video. And if you are contemplating trying to start a business, I will say this. There is probably no better time than right now to try to create something. With everything that has been introduced, with how the job market is shifting, like nothing is safe anymore except maybe plumber jobs and some trade positions where you're not going to have to worry about AI because you're going to have to be called upon to fix things until we have robots that do it, right?
Yep.
So right now, this is the creator world right now. I think this is I would actually say this trumps where websites were pre 1999, 2000.
Yep.
This was that was the pinnacle of the creative mind at that point, which is, build your entity online, right? Now it's build your business process, automations, and sell something.
Yep.
It literally is the priority of the world right now. I don't think there has been a richer time for the average person to get involved in an entrepreneurial effort for low cost and less time. This is probably the most advantageous time to do it that we've seen in history.
Right.
So if you're pondering it, try it.
Yeah. Yep. You're right.
Just be ready to throw up a big old flag of, oh shit, that didn't work. Because if you've never done it before, you got to learn how to do it. I'm still learning how to do it, and I've tried several times.
Well, I think that's another learning I take away from I wish I would have known sooner that it was okay to fail.
Yeah. I think about like all the podcasts and things that we talked about and watched, and like this, like we would listen to people like this talk about how they did their business, how they built it up, the mistakes they made, and we tried our own things and we still made mistakes. We still effed up and we still didn't find the bullseye. So it's like, you could do all the learning in the world pre-trying your business. You're still not going to hit the mark. You have to go through the motions to find it. You really do. There is no easy win, I don't think. I mean, if there is, it's rare.
Right. No. Well, those are quite the journeys.
Yeah, we're two old guys who've been burned a few times that are really just trying to get her done.
Yeah, just trying to get it done. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, God willing, we have many years ahead of us, so it'll be interesting to see where if we record another one of these episodes 5 years from now,
Yeah, right.
where things will be. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
I've pivoted so much over the years and tried so many just weird different things. And I wouldn't even say tried. I've had ideas. You know a lot of them that I've had
Mhm.
where it's like,
Yep.
and I think that's one of my probably strengths is I think of endless ideas. Like I've always got some idea, but I've never really tried them. But
Well, you have a little bit of that serial entrepreneur, whereas you have
yeah,
several projects going on, and not all of them are going to work out. So you're trying to hedge your bets, right?
yep, totally.
And most people who are entrepreneurs recommend that you don't do that, right?
Yeah,
But
yep,
it works for some. You already
yep,
said, there are some people who will just launch something, sell it, and move on, right?
mhm, mhm.
And those are usually the ones that have probably a couple things working, right?
Yeah,
Because
for
they're
sure.
not really attached to it. It's just something that they see as an opportunity that they can
Right,
take advantage of
right.
and make some money. I don't think that's commonplace. I think that is a special kind of person that has to do that.
Sure, right. Yep.
But I think you have a touch of that. I think you do. And I think it is because my personal opinion about how you're approaching things when it comes to ideas. You have a lot of ideas. You also have, you take an idea and you go to the nth degree before you've even taken step one on the idea.
That is accurate.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gift. Not everybody can do that. Um, some people can, and then, ultimately reverse engineer it back to where they needed to be at step one or whatever it is. But,
Yep.
some people can't even come up with a fresh idea. So
Yeah.
you have to, take a grain of salt with your ability and how you manage that ability when it may get in the way at times.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I've always admired the fact that you can just come up with things off the cuff. And I think you struggle with it sometimes because it distracts you from where you wanted to go.
That is fair.
Yeah.
Yep. Very true. Yep. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy.
Well, to your point earlier, though, maybe it just wasn't the way to go.
Right. Yep. Who knows? Who knows? My guess is my ideas and entrepreneurial journey will change more and again for sure.
Yeah. And I'll just pull out a true identity thing. We're constantly changing
Mhm.
as people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you will definitely change.
Oh yeah.
How
Oh yeah.
you're approaching what you're currently working on will change.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yep.
No.
At some point, you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to sell out.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
That's a change.
Yep. That's very good. Well,
Yep.
every day you have different experiences um, and those change how you view things and how you think about things. And um so yeah, no, even in the last year I've encountered a couple of obstacles in front of me that were new and I had to learn from. And so even that changes the way I think about things and how I may coach others to think about things. And so, and like now I'm in a slightly different role. I'm learning new things. It's making me think differently about things that I thought I would want to coach others on.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it's going to continue to evolve.
Right.
Um, and I'm reaching a point in my life now where there's experiences I haven't had yet that I want to have,
Hmm.
things I want to see, things I want to do that will alter the way I think about things. So yeah, it forever be evolving.
Yep.
I'm not someone who's gonna start a business that's just cranking out widgets or something like that. My
Right.
business will always be around ideas, concepts, processes, and
Strategy.
those, yeah, and strategy, and those change all the time.
Right.
So yeah, and that I think I enjoy that.
Hmm.
See, that's maybe another thing that I think if I was talking to myself 20 years ago, be okay with that idea.
Right.
You don't need to make a product that you're going to package and sell. You can sell ideas,
Hmm.
concepts.
Yep.
That's something I did not know until probably even just really 5, 7, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, people pay for that.
Yep.
You know.
We learned that in marketing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's all ideas. It's all concepts.
That's
It's
right.
all, it's not always something tangible.
That's right.
So, um, but I think that's just common. I love your early. I did lemonade stands every now and then. I did grass cutting. I love the
Yeah, I
roots of
did that too.
art because I think that really says a lot. I actively was looking for grass cutting jobs every summer. Like that was how I made my money in the summer. You brought up,
I think I was lucky because I shouldn't say lucky of the circumstances, but my father passed away when I was 13, and I had a lot. I live in a small town.
Mhm.
My mom was very connected in the town, and I had a lot of fathers who invited me to older generation fathers who invited me to mow their lawn. So
Yeah,
I did make some money because
yeah,
of that as well.
yeah, yeah. And then
It wasn't me seeking it out though, so I didn't really count it,
yep.
but it's still something, you know.
This might seem unrelated, but actually, I don't think it is. When you mentioned the baseball cards, that was a big part of my childhood. I loved collecting baseball cards, but I also, at a very early age, understood the value of trading
Hmm.
and selling.
Yep.
And I had a pretty decent collection. I had some really good cards, and I remember thinking like a business almost about
Oh
how
yeah.
like I knew that I had this Don Mattingly card, and I knew that the kid down the block loved Don Mattingly and loved
Yep.
the Yankees, and I knew that that card,
I love Don Mattingly.
and I did too. Uh, but I knew that that card meant something to him, and
Yeah.
that I was going to be able to, get two Kirby Pucketts and a Nolan Ryan in
Yeah.
exchange for Don Mattingly. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
there
Totally.
was the collecting the cards was fun for me, but I think even at an early age, I understood that I had
Value.
something that someone else wanted, and that I could not use that to my advantage, but just like create a market for it.
Oh, yeah.
Create a market for it. So yeah, those actually those were some formative years right there. It
Big
was
time.
when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, cutting grass and trading baseball cards.
Yep. I spent a lot of time at the card comic book store that we had in town. It was a small little shop, but he had just enough to keep me interested.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember Schneider's?
Oh yeah, that was a special trip for me to go to the cities.
Yeah, yeah,
And
because
go to
those are only up
Schneider's.
here. Yeah,
Yep.
you had to come up here to go to those,
Yep.
but we had one here in Roseville, um, and we had another pharmacy gift shop that sold baseball cards. And during the summer,
I love that store.
because that's back when baseball cards were only a pack was 50 cents.
Right.
So what I'd do is I'd take a dollar bill I'd make from cutting grass, and I'd ride my bike up to the drugstore, and I'd buy one pack of Topps baseball cards. That was 50 cents. And I'd take my other 50 cents and I'd go buy a small cone from Dairy Queen.
Okay. All
And
right.
that was like every day in the summer.
I got a soda usually, but yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Every day in the summer, that's like what we did. It was like the baseball cards were 50 cents and the small cone was like 50 cents. It was like a dollar. It had a lot of pull back then.
Right.
Now packs of baseball cards are $7, $8.
I know, it's crazy.
Sometimes even more. And you get less of them in a pack, and you don't get the stale bubble gum.
Right.
Jeez, what does the world come to? The kids
I know.
nowadays don't
What a
understand.
dip.
Yeah, but no, that's good times. Yeah, that's cool.
That's all I got. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't have anything else. I mean, I think this is a great topic. It was kind of good to set the foundation on how we got here.
Right.
Probably should have done this episode 1, but that's all right. It's all good.
Nah, 17's good.
Yeah, 17's good.
Had to feel
Okay,
some things out first, remember?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping things.
Yeah.
Couple of housekeeping things. Number 1, you got a lot of stuff going on. You're cooking up some things. You've got some changes coming.
Yep.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm privileged to be one of the few who know these things that is going on.
You're behind the scenes.
I'm behind the scenes.
You're
I
hanging out
love
with the
it.
wizard behind the curtain. Yep.
Okay, I'm going to say publicly right now that I support what you're doing. I love it. And I'm excited for this to actually become something that we can talk about
I know, me too.
because there's a whole story and background on how you got to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be a great story to tell.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So I'm going to call it right now. Before you issue a press release to Yahoo Finance and all those other big outlets, and
Yeah.
before Bloomberg and CNBC gets a hold of you,
I'll put my PR push on hold.
yep, because this will be a Dumb Marketer exclusive. I'm calling it right now.
Probably in December of 2026.
See, I'm a marketer, so I'm always thinking about how to get the exclusive, how to get the content exclusive. So I'm calling it right now. This will be a Dumb Marketers exclusive. You'll break that news here. We'll talk about it. It'll be all good. I love that. You've also indicated you're going to get a lot more active on social media, right? So I should tell people
Again, 2026. Yep.
tell people to follow you on social media. No, I'll put a link to your website so people can go visit that for sure. Unless there's somewhere else you want them to go. Is there anywhere else you want someone to go find out more about you?
No.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
LinkedIn's good.
LinkedIn's good. Yeah, LinkedIn's a good spot. Yeah, for sure. Yep. And my website, go visit that.
Websites.
Other than that, we're doing okay from a YouTube perspective, but we sure could use some more subscribers.
Sure.
So if you're watching this video, subscribe to our channel. Because Luke and I, before we hit record, said we're gonna try to do more.
What? What Bob is referring to is
more content.
We have been talking about trying new things with YouTube.
Yeah.
So we will probably be trying some new things with YouTube.
Yeah, I'd like to record some more shorts. I'd like to, do
you
some.
You don't have to, tell everybody everything we plan to do.
No, that's all right. That's okay. I'm okay. Actually, that'll hold me accountable to doing it.
I was just gonna say, so you like making promises that you don't hold. So
yeah, that's right. It's good. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
It's fun.
No, because I want to do it. So I want to do it.
Okay.
But no, hopefully we can do some more things and it'll be all good. But yeah, subscribe, like this video, drop a comment, let us know if you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur.
Hopefully you heard something that you enjoyed.
Yep, hopefully you heard something you enjoyed. What was your favorite baseball card of the 90s?
Yeah.
80s, 90s. And I would have to say the 1987 Topps Don Mattingly is one of my favorite cards of all time, for sure.
I had a lot of them.
Yeah, I had a lot of them too. Okay, so that's about it for today's episode. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay, we're out. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.